RetroDaze.
So much of my youth was dedicated to playing handheld games. Probably the most prominent of these were Tiger's electronic games because they were cheap and usually had a franchise tie-in. Of course, there were the more advanced systems like Game Boy and Game Gear, which were leagues better than their Tiger counterparts. But before all the digital glitz and glam, before removable cartridges and backlit screens, there was another kind of handheld game that dominated the market.
Mechanical and electromechanical games ruled the 70s and early 80s landscape, but over time, we forgot about them. The digital world blinded us to the pure joy of a wind-up experience until these well-loved toys were left to molder in our toy chests, forgotten and unloved. Electromechanical games are essentially any kind of toy that combines both electronics and mechanical actions for operation. Their mechanical counterparts simply don't have the electronic components like a toy that operates solely on a wind-up feature, for instance. Both mechanical and electromechanical games have been around for a long time, especially in arcade and carnival settings. These larger examples include things like pinball, skee-ball, pachinko, and fortune teller machines. Today's video, though, focuses on the innovative handheld and tabletop variety found in the 70s and 80s, like the first forgotten toy on our list, Tomy Skill Squares.
Skill Squares! You can wind them up and play them! Skill Squares! With great, exciting games! There's Rescue Cop to wind it up and it goes! If you want to catch the ball, you gotta be on your toes! And the shooting gallery where you try to aim straight. You can swing from a pole and go in ape. And they're each sold separate, but they're all the same shape. They're Skill Squares! Skill Squares, Rescue Copter, Shooting Gallery, and Going Ape, each sold separately by Tomy.
I chose Tomy Skill Squares as the first item because it's a true mechanical toy, functioning without the need of batteries and solely powered by its wind-up feature. These kinds of games were obviously a bit more limited than their electromechanical brethren, but they also held a special place in the hearts and minds of children in the 70s and 80s. Skill Squares in particular had a lot of creativity and variety across the brand, which is pretty hard to do within the parameters of this particular toy. They had to fit inside a small cube, have an interactive wind-up element, and be relegated to games that required the player to shoot small balls using a plunger. Like it says on the packaging, wind 'em up for a movin' and shootin' challenge. Tomy began distribution of Skill Squares in 1983 and continued sales through the early 90s with a name change to Starcades in 1987 after a partnership with Kico. With the name change also came some other aesthetic modifications. No longer boxed in by the name Skill Squares, Starcades added a curved top to their version with a little extra height. The main benefit of the curved plastic is that there's no longer a seam disrupting the view of the game. Starcades also removed the interior stickers visible in Skill Squares and added background artwork, sometimes paired with a color change to either the base plastic or the interior components. The instructions on the back are also more detailed since they had more room to work with on the back side of the art panel. There's something of an arcade feel to these, almost like a tiny version of the types of skill games you'd find at a carnival. The Starcade's packaging even leaned into the idea, saying, "A mini arcade that fits in your hand. Shoot at your target before the time runs out." Whether you were trying to collect the metal balls at the end of a magnetized helicopter, shoot bottles with a plastic gun, feed a hungry Minnie Mouth, land a few baskets against a plastic defense, collect balls in a rocket tower, or assist a monkey in collecting pellets, these tiny wind-up toys had a lot going for them in a small package and a low entry fee of roughly $3. Predating Skill Squares, Tomy originally released another series of mechanical games starting in 1975 called Pocket Games, or Pocketeers in the UK, and Pocket Mates in Japan. Not only did these come out before Skill Squares, but they were also more pervasive, with 46 game varieties created in the UK, 71 in the US, and 129 in Japan, not counting the 3 slimline versions, for a whopping 246 games. While the Skill Squares were mobile only in the sense that you could carry them with you or put them in your backpack, Pocket Games, as the name suggests, were truly pocketable. Each game used some combination of a wind-up or spring-loaded mechanism along with other elements like magnets, gears, buttons, and levers to challenge players. Tomy's initial release included 6 games: Pocket Pinball, Pocket Basketball, Pocket Pachinko, Pocket Raceway, Pocket Baseball, and Pocket Soccer. The success of these simple yet often difficult to master games led to the aforementioned explosion in variety and a thriving collector's market even today.
Blip, 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 blip. Blip is the digital game that you can take with you anywhere. With the batteries you supply, the light-emitting diode zips across the screen. You try to press the right button to send it back. An automatic readout keeps score. 2 people or only one can play. When you play with Blip, you get carried away. And so does Blip. Blip, the digital game.
Starting in 1977, Tomy began releasing a line of electromechanical games of similar appearance, starting with Blip, which was a 1 or 2 player game similar to Pong or table tennis. Gameplay for 2 players involved trying to press the button, 1, 2, or 3, that corresponds with the red ball's trajectory. If you press the correct button in time, the ball will be returned to your opponent. If the button is not pressed in time or you press the wrong button, gameplay is momentarily halted and your opponent gets a point on their scorecard. To restart gameplay, you pull down the serve lever. The mechanical component of the game is rather complex from an engineering standpoint and works entirely on a wind-up timer feature with interactive button pushes and lever pulls that either start or stop the timer and thus gameplay. One look at the inside of the console reveals just how many working parts there are to make the game function and is really quite an impressive example of how a wind-up mechanism can be built upon with interactive features. The electronic part of electromechanical actually just comes down to one simple yet important component, a battery-powered LED light that acts as the ball. Considering the only electronic elements in the game are batteries, a resistor, and a light bulb, calling Blip the digital game as it does on the box and console is certainly a bit of a stretch.
It's a beautiful day for digital derby, ladies and gentlemen. Tomy Hill starts out cautiously. He jams his car to second gear. Now third, he's really moving. The traffic is tight, but Tomy Hill's in the lead. Look out, Tomy! Too bad. Tomy Hill's out of the race. Tomy, you had a rough time out there. What happens now? Will you retire? Retire? I'm only 8 years old. Oh, yeah.
Batteries not included. Digital Derby Auto Raceway comes complete with lap counter and timer by Tomy.
1978's Digital Derby took the winning formula used for Blip and reimagined the console as a mini racing game. To be fair, Digital Derby is a bit more digital in that the mechanism inside runs on batteries instead of a wind-up feature, which is also why the game takes 2 C batteries while Blip only requires 2 AA batteries. The batteries also power the red crash light if your car hits another one on the road during the race.
The absolute peak of non-digital mechanical toy technology from 1978. All right, so if I remember correctly, I have to press start for this whole time until the arrow reaches S, the start button. So there we go. Oh.
Now you're using the transmission there to slow down and speed up and come to a standstill.
Oh, and I get a crash. It functions, but it's a little spotty. The 2 roads move in different orientation to each other, and that's how you can exploit to get the cars to separate so you don't crash into them. And I literally remember playing this for so many hours. I figured out all the shortcuts. I mean, I could probably play it blind when I was like 12. And here comes a crash. Bam!
You're already up to 21 laps.
And I think the actual number counter might also be having a little trouble. You can hear this thing is really old.
Struggling a little.
It is. I mean, it's not bad for a 35-year-old toy. No, 45-year-old toy.
Yeah, I haven't pulled out C-cell batteries in a really long time.
Yeah.
Adam Savage has an entire in-depth teardown of the console over on his YouTube channel for those interested in seeing the inner workings of this fascinating little machine. A few other games in the series were released by Tomy in 1979 and 80, including Hit and Missile and Eddie Kidd's Stunt Bike, both of which looked and functioned in much the same way as the previously mentioned games. Hit and Missile required players to fire and guide missiles into aircraft that flew overhead, while Stunt Bike had players jumping a motorcycle over obstacles. As fun as these games were, Tomy was not finished innovating. In 1982, Tomy employed a larger form factor to create two mini arcades called Cosmic Clash, Arcade Attack in other regions, and Daring Driver. Like the previous set of consoles, the mechanical components of these games ran on batteries, which also powered the light effects but were otherwise completely driven by motors with various buttons and levers for gameplay. In Cosmic Clash, the player tries to time the button press of their laser to hit a series of side-scrolling spacecraft seen on screen. The movement of the spaceships speeds up and slows down at intervals for added difficulty. In Daring Driver, the player has to use the tiny steering wheel to stay on the road without crashing. Now, both of these games have a larger form factor than the previous models, making them look like, well, you guessed it, mini arcade cabinets. Unfortunately, it was the same year when Kico launched their first 4 tabletop mini arcades, which were actual digital games for Pac-Man, Galaxian, Donkey Kong, and Frogger.
Hey, that's Frogger!
Yeah, it's the official tabletop version of the arcade game.
It plays the same. Where'd you get it?
Mr. Arcade is here.
Galaxian, it's mine.
Pac-Man. You want to take it home?
Yeah. My own Pac-Man. Mr. Arcade, could you?
Donkey Kong?
Donkey Kong?
The official tabletop version.
Frogger, Donkey Kong, and Midway's Pac-Man and Galaxian. The arcade games you can take home with you from Kico.
As cool as electromechanical games were, for roughly twice the price, you could take home a mini version of licensed games you played in the real arcade, making Tomy's offerings feel like the cheap knockoff versions of something you'd much rather own. But even as true digital games were being released, mechanical and electromechanical games remained solid sellers precisely for that reason. They were a cheaper alternative, allowed for innovation, and were still a heck of a lot of fun. Now, that's one catchy tune, and an addictive game to boot. Tricky Traps, also released as Trip Over Traps, was a labyrinthine puzzle game that tested your reaction time as you navigated your metal ball bearings through a series of traps with the press of a button. But if your timing was off, you lost your piece.
Hey, you want to play Screwball Scramble? Yes? Okay. Screwball Scramble! Game over! Oh, thanks, mate. Screwball Scramble for Screwballs only!
The original Screwball Scramble, also known as Run Yourself Ragged, actually predates Tricky Traps, is larger, and is also completely mechanical, putting players in control of a number of different contraptions to get your ball to the finish line. The game has since birthed a few variants that can be placed in series and played together.
When we first started compiling items for this video, the original concept was simply a list of mechanical and electromechanical games. Well, it wasn't long before we realized that every single toy we added to the list was made by Tomy. It was a bit of a surprise. Now, certainly other companies made these types of toys, but it appears Tomy was one of the foremost innovators, and we didn't even scratch the surface. Heck, if we really wanted to, we could run a year-long series on just the 246 Pocket games alone. Do you have any of these games? How did they fare against their digital counterparts in your house? Well, I would love to hear about it down in the comments. And if you enjoy our content, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and maybe even activating that ubiquitous notification bell. It really does make a huge difference. Let's meet again next week to celebrate yesteryear, right here on RetroDaze.
Clicky clicky.